Hey, Greg.
Hello. So this is my first time sharing in Zoom, and it's also the first, and as such, it's the first time I've experienced not being able to see anybody while sharing my screen.
Ah,
Yeah, apparently that's default for Zoom.
you
Uh,
should be able to.
yeah, there's a setting, but I can't get to my settings while I'm sharing my screen, I don't think. I haven't figured out how to get to my settings anyway. I don't know. I can't find it.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know that I can get to my settings while I'm in a call either. I think I have to just have the Zoom window loaded without a call in order to get to my settings.
Should be able to, but
Yeah, if Zoom were a better application, then yeah, probably.
Hello.
Hey, Juan.
Hello,
How's it
Juan.
going?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. How you doing?
Cool, I'm doing fine. Very cold over here, though. Made me a bit ill today, but now I'm feeling better.
Oh no, how cold is it?
I am not sure what. Well, right now it's better, but I think in the morning was below maybe 5 degrees or something like that, which is very strange in this time of the year. But
Hmm.
yeah, weather has been crazy over here this year for some reason.
Wow.
Juan, you're in Spain too?
I'm in Bolivia.
You're in Bolivia. Okay.
Yes.
So you're experiencing the same, you have the same. Wait a minute. Bolivia is central, isn't it? It's like tropics?
No, southern hemisphere. So
Oh, you're
it's
farther south than I thought.
we
Okay.
should be exiting winter or something like that, but it has been extremely cold. Like, for example, in the city, I mean, people usually don't have heating because it never gets very cold. So
Right.
then we have these kind of cold waves, and it's very hard to stay warm.
Yeah.
uh, we'll see.
Yeah,
Where are you on?
New Zealand's been pretty cold over the past few days and like very, very wet for the past couple weeks.
Crazy. Yeah, I think it's everywhere. I think, Jason, you were asking, I'm in Bolivia right now. But yeah, it has been like very, very cold in the southern hemisphere and then very hot in the northern one. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Guess it's the world we live in.
Yeah.
I read that the US, I think in Phoenix, it reached a record high of I think like 53 Celsius or something like that, whatever that is
Yeah.
in Fahrenheit.
Yeah. Arizona and New Mexico have been having a hard time. How's how's England doing?
I mean, it's just all over the shop. I mean, you go out one day, you get burnt. You go out the next day, you need a, raincoat and brolly, or umbrella. Sorry. So yeah, like I mean, and that could be the same day. Um, you just got no idea what's going on. It's
There
about
was one
fun.
day, I think it was Friday last week. I drove the kids to school and it was bright and sunny out. And then, we came back and it was still bright. I came back from dropping them off and it was still bright and sunny out. And then I remember seeing the sky had no clouds in it at all. And I thought that could change in the next hour. And then sure enough, within the next hour, it was raining.
Hey, Austin, great to see you.
Oh, hello. Someone pinged me on Slack last week and I never got back, but I remembered that it happened.
Yep. All right, seems like we have a decent crowd here. All the usual players. Go ahead and get started. Pull my window that I'm actually sharing up. Welcome to the open community working meeting for JSON Schema for 31st of July. It's August here in New Zealand, so that feels weird. The issue number for this meeting is 452, as I'm sharing on the screen. A couple things before we get started. We're going to be recording this. I think it's already recording, and Ben, I think, Ben's note taker is online as well. This should be posted up to YouTube. If you don't want this to be posted to YouTube, reach out to myself, Ben, or Ben-Ha, and we won't post it. Or we'll work something out. I'm not sure how that works. We encourage you to challenge language behavior that's harmful or not exclusive during this meeting. We want you to participate, but please remain on mute when you're not speaking, and use the Zoom meeting raised hand feature to notify that you want to speak. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody actually do that. And then we also have the JSON Schema Code of Conduct that we expect everybody to follow. Looking back at the previous meeting, if I recall, this was a short meeting. Either this one or the previous one was a short meeting. I don't recall. It's all blur now. We're looking at disabling the carbon ads for the mobile website. I don't know if we actually did that or not, but we agreed to get it done. We got an update on the status of the new website. It looks really good. I've seen a few other PRs come through for that. Hopefully that's ready to roll. Discussing the initial backlog for the stable release. We'll get another update on that today. We've got 3 tasks on there, and we're continuing discussing on what else needs to go in. And then Ben, that's a long summary. But it looks like anything that has to do with roadmap, just raise your hand and say that, hey, we think this should be on the roadmap, that kind of thing. For action items, looks like all the action items that were captured have been completed. Is there anything left over from last week that anybody would like to raise? Just shout out. I don't have video of anybody up. All right. Moving on to this week. Today we're going to be talking that. Today we're going to be getting another update on the stable release development. Looking at the board that we're putting together, as well as a discussion later on that we've been having. Do we have any updates for roadmap from anybody? Specifics on the financial sustainability of the project, existing implementation, research of existing implementations, update on the JSON Schema charter, and a Postman case study, final review call. Is there anything else that anybody would like to add? If you think of anything, pop it in a comment. I'll keep this page refreshed and watch that.
I'm just getting back from ITF 117 in San Francisco, and of course I was at 116 in Yokohama, and there's a lot of much breaking news coming out of that. So there'll I'll have some things to go over relating to that.
Okay. Let's see if I can add that real quick. ETF 117. That's Austin. Go. There you go. You're on there. All right. So on to the review of the stable release development. Currently, the only thing in progress as far as things being actioned is converting the spec to Markdown. We do have some other things in the list of things to do, and we have several discussions open which don't render on this page. Jason, do you want to give an update on converting the spec to Markdown?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of it done. I put up a draft PR, and probably within the next day or two, I should be ready to bring that out of draft. But yeah, that should be. I mean, it's looking pretty good. I mean, obviously not visually. Somebody who has CSS and design skills should go in and make it look nice. But it's I've gotten pretty comfortable with the plugin development stuff. So so I think we can make it do whatever we need it to do. So if we have any features that you know, we think it would be nice if it did X, then we should be able to make it do that, whatever it is.
Awesome, thank you. In regard to the CSS stuff, Ben, is that something that we can get our website people to help with?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, if this is some easy stuff, I could probably do it. But yeah, we can probably get some other people involved in doing that sort of work if we know what he's doing. Okay,
it'd be nice to have a common theme between the website and the spec. I mean, it doesn't need to be like all graphics and stuff, but using the same font and paragraph styling, that kind of stuff would be good.
Yeah, definitely. I'll let to follow up on that.
Okay, thank you. I expect we'll eventually want to create an issue for that as well. I think that's it for the update. We have another discussion that we have going. I've got an item down at the bottom. We'll get to that. Next up, Ben, for the roadmap, what's your update?
Yeah, this is just a sort of regular section during our call each week to ask anybody who's worked on anything just to give one update on any one item that they've worked on, if any. So I can kick that off. I've been moving forward the OpenJS Foundation onboarding by continuing with the charter work, which is now looking pretty much complete. There's just a few alterations that need to be made, and it looks like it has approval from the OpenJS Foundation side. So I'm going to be calling on everybody to review that at some point this next week. So it's sort of final confirmation.
Got multiple things in progress going there. Ben, if you feel that you have too much going on, it looks like it's split pretty well between you and Ben, huh? But yeah, just let me know. I've been working on my implementation recently, and aside from that, just managing discussions, so I have a little bit of time. Next up is the report on financial stability. Also, Ben.
Yeah, so this one was last time we had this on a call, there was some suggestions for changes to be made, and this is just a highlight, and I think it's the same with the next one, just to highlight for people to go and review, and thumbs up if they feel the criteria is good, or if they would like to see any alterations. And this is for changing the status from unspecified to specified, or waiting, making sure we've sufficiently captured the objective of the issue. So this particular issue has been updated by Julian, and we've covered some things that weren't covered previously. I just wanted to re-highlight that and ask people to book some time in to go and review those changes and see if they are now acceptable.
Okay, you said the next one is a similar case.
Yeah.
It's the, hang on, I thought I opened that one. Oh, I must have just closed. Okay. 419. Okay, yeah, I had the wrong one open. My apologies. So this is the financial stability one, which is 419, and then existing implementations, which Julie and I are working on. That's 418.
Yeah, so I just ask people go and review that. I'll be hassling people towards the end of the week if I don't see thumbs up on that initial posting or any further comments. So yeah, once I've got a good number of thumbs up on that, I'll can change that status on the roadmap away from unspecified to specified and ready.
I'll look at those later. And the JSON schema charter stuff, this has been going on for quite a while. Looks like Toby has a few outstanding things. I think you've probably addressed everything in here though.
Yeah, there's a few nits left now. There's no major revisions going to happen now. So really I'm highlighting anybody who's a member of TSC or is heavily involved to come and have a look at this for the very final review for our starting charter. We're not going to see significant changes at this point. Just a couple of minor changes. So yeah, please also book in some time to review this. Once I have everybody's approval who's in the TSC, then I will merge that. But I will definitely be waiting for complete TSC approval.
Awesome. And I think your last one here is the case study article. I have yet.
I guess again, this is another. Please go and have a look at this, and please say if you have any objections or any alterations you'd like to make. So this case study is a reposting with permission from the Postman blog, and yeah, huge thanks to Juan for making most of this happen, and it's looking really nice. It's almost a straight copy from the Postman blog. There are a few changes to make the nouns make sense in terms of who's writing and who's we and who's postman that Julian picked up on. But other than that, it's a direct copy. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that I'm looking for reviews on this as well. And this will go out when we have enough reviews.
Cool. I will have a look at that one as well. And then for me and Jason, We have a discussion on URIs and IDs, specifically what we want in this to change in the spec, if anything. So the idea here is that the spec really doesn't have any business telling implementations how to resolve URIs, because URI resolution should follow the specification that tells you about URIs. And the JSON schema spec may be overstepping its bounds in telling implementations to be able to, or that they have to be able to associate URIs with schemas arbitrarily. So the idea, so that's one aspect of it, and the other aspect of it is if an implementation receives a URI, it should be able to consider, it should be free to use that URI to locate the schema or the resource however it needs to, based on the URI content. The 6 items that we have highlighted here are the things that I think should be changed, and Jason and I we went back and forth in DMs pretty much all last week, isolating the specific kinds of changes that need to take place, not necessarily where those changes need to, like what text specifically needs to change, but the ideas. We'll still have to go through the text and identify where specifically these ideas are represented. But leaving URI resolution as an implementation decision is the goal here. Yeah, we don't want to override what the URI spec says needs to happen, and implementations should be able to make their own decisions. That's the basic idea here. Eventually we'll get to one thing that I want to highlight that Julian said is this thing here. If you want to, as a message to schema authors, if you want to use a URI, or if you use a URI to identify the schema, and that happens to be a URL, then it needs to be retrievable, or it should be retrievable at the URL. Otherwise, don't use a URL. Use a different kind of non-locating URI, and then we should we should do that ourselves so that we're an example to follow. And that's the conclusion that Jason and I came to in our DM. So that's actually what we're going for here. There's some good discussion going. Karen's popped in, Ben has popped in as well. So this has been some good discussion so far. If anybody has questions, I imagine Jason and I will be able to try to answer some of those questions. Otherwise, if you want, we can leave that for the discussion online.
I'll add that none of these recommendations actually change the behavior of any required behaviors of JSON schema. It's this is all like focused on trying to change the behavior of users. I would hope that this ends up with implementation starting to make changes that help users make more appropriate choices in the URIs that they choose. But none of this is actually enforcing any of that. It's explicitly saying that's up to the implementation. So things like us recommending that HTTP URIs don't make requests, network requests by default, like that stuff we can continue to, make that recommendation outside of the script outside of the spec as a best practice recommendation, but it's just removing that that recommendation from the script, the spec, not reversing it.
All right, I expect by the silence that we want to continue discussion in the in GitHub. So I will move on. Austin, you're up. What's your update on IETF stuffs?
Yeah, so let's see, I was at HTTP and HTTP APIs meetings, and also there's a media types rework going on. I'll get to that later. But I was at that. So it's looking like the JSON schema media type isn't going to be included in the APIs document that the Open API registration is going through. And that's, I didn't offer any comment on that actually, but there seems to be a lot of open questions about how JSON schema fits into that internet draft. And now, it was also pointed out though that the standards tree media type registration is opening up to open source projects, or that's the plan within there's a current IDE out there going through the process to open it up a lot like how URI schemes are just require expert approval, I think, or some sort of specification, which makes a lot more sense. It doesn't really make sense to me that you can register a URI scheme, but not a standards tree media type registration. If anything, the media type registration should be much easier to register. So that requires just a specification and some sort of distinguished maintainer that can accept or that can do change control. But it doesn't require one of the major standards bodies, one of the 3 or 4, ISO, W3C, IETF. It doesn't require their stamp as such. Now, regardless of how the media type is registered, even if it was going in the API media types draft, or if it was just going directly in the standards tree registration, there's still the issue of permitting its use in actual standards. So a lot of the people we were talking with, a lot of standards are going with just using CBOR and CDDL these days. And one of the major suggestions was investigating compatibility with CDDL, which is supposed to be a description format for CBOR, and CBOR is in theoretically compatible with JSON. But as I was looking into this, it's kind of not. So I'm going to see if I can sit down with Karsten and figure out if it might be necessary to adapt some CBOR semantics. I don't know if that's even possible, but figure out what to do to try and unify the JSON and CBOR worlds, because in theory they're supposed to be unified, and in practice there's some sort of considerations. But in any event, a lot of interest in unifying the CDDL worlds, like maybe bringing CDDL to Open API and things like that. Karsten Borman, who is the author of those, also had a PR open to do the conversion to Markdown. He has the tool that, he actually maintains the tool that converts from RFC XML to Markdown and vice versa. So that's his project as well. So I've talked with him about that. I just haven't talked with him about Seaborn in particular. And then there's maybe the biggest issue is that the current license for the JSON schema spec only permits it to be worked on in the context of IETF documents. And this is something I discussed with the president of the committee that oversees the intellectual property by the IETF. Now, technically, they don't even own what the issue is in order to move a document out of the IETF process and remove that license, you'd have to get permission from all of the authors. That's not something that we have. So we're going to have to take a look at what we are hoping to get out of republishing this document, or take a closer look at what exactly we're trying to accomplish. Because at this point, the copyright for the document is still under the IETF umbrella, and it looks like it has to stay there for now. So that's a lot of news coming out of there. Yes.
On that topic, and Jason, you might want to chime in here. If IETF has the copyright on the document, but then they're also saying that they're not guaranteeing that the document will be available through IETF potentially going forward. How does all of that work together?
They don't actually take the copyright off of the document. That's jointly owned by all the authors, and that involves going around to all the authors and getting it relicensed, which is not something that
given
So
this,
are you talking about what's the scope of all authors? Are we talking about every author of any draft that we've ever published?
Presumably, I mean, in my opinion, it would just be sufficient to get all the that would be Henry. He was also there, and we were discussing this. And I forget everyone's names, but there's probably about 5 or 6 people at least. And I know, like, that's not something Henry or myself are open to doing. So there's a significant IP problem there. If now,
so then what happens if IETF decides to stop hosting those files and we don't have the rights to post them on our website?
I would suggest taking,
I'm not expecting you to develop an answer for that right now.
Yeah, well, let's the devil's in the details. So people can rehost the documents, and authors can work on the documents, but in theory, like if one of the authors says, no, I don't like how this is being worked on, we can, and they can say we need to move this back into the scope of the IETF development umbrella. It's not always exactly clear, but like just the purpose of the license is so that like one standards group can't take a standard and abscond with it and move it to their working group. There is some amount of protections written into the license so that if it's written within the scope of one standards group, it stays within that scope of that standards group.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Now, mhm.
So if we're looking, I mean, we're not going to be editing those old drafts. I see you, Ben, just a second. If we're not going to be editing those old drafts, we're just going to be rehosting them. So maybe some of this doesn't apply to us. Ben?
Yeah, I mean, when we went through the joining the OpenJS Foundation, the license is one of the things that we looked at, and I specifically got legal involved on this matter, and their understanding of things were because of the license on the repository, that it covered these sorts of things, and we can continue to move forward without the necessary concerns of the IETF. And I guess this is one of the reasons why we have like the developer certificate of origin thing that they recommend be put in place moving forward, but we can't obviously do that retroactively. Obviously, if we were relicensing it, that would be an issue, and we would have to talk with legal in terms of how that would happen. But currently, as I understand it, it's as well as the IETF license from the IETF publications, it's also the license under BSD clause 3 and the academic free license based on the repository.
So it sounds like we shouldn't have a problem going forward. But our plan to say, it's okay to reference our drafts because we're posting them is not necessarily a solution. Does that sound like a accurate summary?
I'll have to take a closer look at that and get back with some of the people I talked with. Our understanding is that license was only added fairly recently and not in time, like I mean, it's not dual licensed. It was
that dual license is from the very beginning of the repository, because this is one of the things we had to dig into. So literally the original repository in the old organization, that's where this originates from, like before we started working on it.
So are we talking about, like, so we have our license, right? And are you saying, Austin, that that IETF imposes an additional license when we post it to them?
The actual document itself provides a license for people to be able to redistribute and modify it, and it can be generally distributed like to the general public, but the actual act of modifying it has to happen under certain conditions, like it stays within
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, where does this license come from? Is
The-
IETF, do we like automatically are required to be under this this license because we submitted to IETF? Because the license that we chose
I'm
nothing to do with
I'm not
IETF.
sure about the specifics. The license that's actually on the draft text is the the IETF trust legal provisions. So BCP 78.
Okay.
Code excerpts are extracted are under the BSD license text, and the rest of the license or the rest of the document is under that license, which specifies like how modifications are made. So
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
the
So I also can't imagine that IETF is really going to fight us on moving away from their process and doing our own thing. They've never had any interest in us in the past, so it's kind of hard to imagine that this could be an issue.
well, yeah, they wouldn't, because they don't, like, they're not the copyright owner, and they, their lawyers aren't going to go after that. But it's the matter that you still need the cooperation of all of the authors in order to be able to relicense the text. And it's just the general spirit of license as well, that you can't, one group can't take the specification and just abscond with it over to them, just because they don't, or because they'd like to go in a different direction with it or something. So now the
So are you saying, Austin, that that the bottom line for you is that we can't move away from IETF because you don't agree? Or maybe I should rephrase, we can't move away without your agreement.
So, I mean, besides the fact that I've never approved of it, Henry also says, oh yeah, he's that's his position as well. So, and then I haven't even talked to the older authors, but presumably, their copyright contribution is still significant in the body of the text.
I'm trying to get the bottom line from you, Austin.
There's a lot of new questions that have been opened up. I'm not sure exactly what else to say now. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of at a loss, I guess.
I guess I missed some of the context, but why are we talking about relicensing? we don't need relicensing to decide whether to move away. If folks want to make changes and move the spec forward, they actually don't need permission from previous copyright owners.
Austin is saying that there's a license implicit in the drafts that we've published that that says we can't do that. We
Yeah,
can't move away without all of the author's approval.
The
That might
copyright
be
notice at the top.
Language, but the language in the source of the spec has always been AFL.
Right, so that's the language that we, or the license that we've always used, but apparently there's an additional something that we may be beholden to. That's added to the document through the IETF tooling.
But that's in the IETF document. That's the license for the IETF document. The license of the source in the repo has no extra clauses, at least as far as I know. Yeah, there's nothing else in here.
That's what I'm hoping too. So the only thing we're really that could even be a concern is the previous drafts, but it shouldn't affect us from moving forward.
Was that a question or a statement?
That was a summary of my understanding of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the actual published documents, it's the license is specifically BCP 78, the trust and legal provisions. So, and that's
for the published IETF
specifically.
In their published form, they have whatever license the IETF puts on them with our approval. The actual source documents in the repo have their own license, and that's the license that they've always had. So we can take the source documents and move them forward however we'd like.
I'll run that by people and see. But that like there was not nobody offered that interpretation. Is it's not so much that actually. So a lot of the concern wasn't even so much, or a lot of the opinions that people offered up wasn't even so much the licensing. I really only talked about that with the chair of the IETF trust and Henry and one other chair. There's also, like, most of the opinions around it were mostly the moving it out of a working group means that you cannot use it in a standard. So like another IRC would not be able to cite JSON schema, even if it got a media type and all these other things.
That's not the case. So if someone wants to fight that out with lawyers, they can. But otherwise, that's not the case. At least as far as
with. It's not. I mean, it's not just a matter of process. Like the overwhelming consensus is towards using like CDDL and specifications like that, and that's there's been a couple of people looking at moving Open API towards CDDL, for instance, because that's an actual published RFC. So and other specifications within the RFC stream as well. So.
But that's a totally separate lesson. I joined in the middle, so apologies because I'm the one missing context. But like, yeah. I don't think anyone on this project has, as of yet, talked about relicensing. And I personally don't understand why we would want to relicense, because then we would need to approach all the previous licensors or copyright owners. But like we don't need to relicense. There's nothing in our license that prevents us from moving forward.
I mean, yeah, like I said, I'll have to ask about that and see why that didn't come up. So I'll poke around and figure that out. But my point there was, it's not merely the copyright concerns, it's also the playing nice with the standards community concerns. And you know, someone specifically said, oh, it's going proprietary. So that's,
yeah, that sounds like FUD to me. So if someone wants to stand up and give actual, the IETF wants to do X and they say we can't do Y, then wonderful. Otherwise, that sounds like FUD to me.
it's FUD or not, like the issue is if people are going to move away from this because it's not in a standards body. And sometimes, indeed, there are rules about you have to cite standards track specifications and other specifications. So that I don't have a good answer for.
Yeah, I don't either, obviously, as not being, but the people to make that call are on this call. The decision makers for that are on this call.
Well, no, like like for example, the HTTP working group just proposed an API. I don't know why this wasn't. I'm going to ask Mark why this wasn't in HTTP API's working group, even though it's an API. A standard, like a JSON-based API for expressing, talking to caches to invalidate their contents and query them and warm them and things like that. And it's all JSON-based. And notably, this, doesn't use JSON schema. It defines its own syntax and key structure because there's no other option for the working group to use JSON schema in this case, where they easily could if it was an RFC track, but that's just how the RFCs work. So this is impacting real standards.
Yeah,
I haven't gotten.
That's a good concern. It should be brought up with the people on this call that, hey, there are people out there who want to use JSON schema and can't, but the people to make that decision are on this call. I don't understand what this has to do with the IETF personally.
Yeah, going on to a standards track, we've already established that that's not an option for us, because every time we've gone down that avenue, we've received an indication that they want to completely rewrite JSON schema, which is not where we're going.
No, that there was one person. If that's the thing you're thinking, or sorry, if that's the thing I think that you're talking of, there was only one person who said that, and it was just some rando on the mailing list. The API working group chairs have said, something like JSON schema would definitely be in scope, as opposed to like the HTTP working group. That would not be in scope for HTTP, and it would not be in scope for the JSON working group were that to reform. And even forming a new working group would be kind of dubious. Although
another limitation is IETF doesn't have, or standards groups, as far as I'm aware, doesn't have a model for a perpetually updated specification. You don't update specifications, you just release new ones. And that's not a model that we want to go toward.
the I mean, I think all I can do is like, or steelman the arguments for against that. Like it totally is possible to release a specification in snapshot specifications where you have a single media type description that lists all of your interoperability requirements in the spec, and then it registers the media type. And then if you want to update that media type, you publish a document which updates the media type. That's totally an option and it's completely possible. So I'm not like not sure what else to say to that.
Honestly,
that's what
I
would be
don't think this discussion is productive. We've discussed all of this in the past, and we made a decision, and we're moving in a direction. Austin, we haven't seen you in months. We haven't heard from you in months, and you come in here and throw a wrench in the middle of things. Like this isn't helpful. Like, we've discussed this. We've made a decision. We're working in a direction. Like, it's done.
I'm acknowledging that as such. I'm reporting the reaction from the rest of the internet standards bodies are not uniformly unfavorable to anything where they wouldn't be able to cite our own work. Like it's just completely outside. This direction is not something where is not a direction that's useful to them.
Then they can come talk to the spec authors, and they can voice their concerns, as they have already on some issues already.
The W3C have come to us and we've had discussions, and they're satisfied that if it's under the Linux Foundation, which it is, and the OpenJS Foundation, which it is, then they're satisfied that makes it referenceable.
Yeah, and
great.
The W3C probably makes sense because their standards are a little bit looser.
If an IETF working group doesn't want to cite anything outside the IETF, then that sounds like an IETF problem to me. There's nothing that we're doing that's preventing anybody from referencing our document.
Specifically, it is it's a document that it's a lack of a document that has specific interoperability requirements and guarantees that if a standard specifies a JSON schema, that it's going to definitely mean the same thing going forward. And they know that the IETF process and W3C process and all of these processes guarantee such an outcome. So
yeah, so that concern sounds fine. The folks on this call understand that concern and decided, so too bad.
And we have the complete capability to address those concerns outside of the IETF process. There's nothing magic about the IETF process in terms of interoperability. I think with the test suite and various other things, I feel like we've done a fairly good job of ensuring compatibility between implementations from different platforms and yeah. I'm not
yeah, like the
between
test suite and everything is great, right?
Say again, Austin?
Like, yeah, the test suite and everything is great. It's just that like other other chairs and authors are specifically moving in the direction of CDDL and things, because that offers guarantees that that they can't get anywhere else, and they have specific concerns that they can't bring it up the same way if it's not in the scope of a working group. There's the amount of, like, I presented on the byte range patch, and the amount of feedback I got there was immediate. And so the documents that are published in working groups, they really do get wide review and serious consideration. And that's something that it's difficult to describe. There's nobody who was very enthusiastic about saying, oh yeah, let's adopt JSON schema for this. I'm not sure what else to say.
Austin, maybe that'll change once we actually get something published under OpenJS. I don't know. Because right now we don't have anything that's published under OpenJS. Everything that we have is kind of this quasi internet draft thing that's not really an internet draft. And it's understandable that those may not be able to be referenceable or whatever. And the future of those documents seems to be mostly resolved in that we'll host them, but also possibly not resolved and questionable. No, we don't know where the next document is going to be as far as referenceability. Under OpenJS, we have indication that it will be referenceable, but then if certain clubs don't want to play with us, then that's their problem, to be honest. That's my opinion. We are running low on time, though. Austin, I would like to thank you for bringing this topic up. But as Jason said, we have discussed this, or a lot of this, a lot before. We've made the decision to move away from IETF. We've advertised that we've made that decision, and we've already joined OpenJS and Linux Foundation, and that's the direction that we're continuing to go. If there are things from IETF that we could borrow, I think we might be open to that, but joining or publishing under IETF is not something that we're open to considering at this point. I will make I'll have a listen to this conversation again and make note of some action points. Everybody, please go look at the PRs that the PRs and issues that Ben has posted for or in the agenda up here. And thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you, Greg.
Later.
Bye, everyone.